Greetings and welcome. We are beekeepers. Stephanie next to me here. I'm Larry. We're going to spend the next few minutes telling you a bit about being a beekeeper and about the services that are provided for us by the honeybees. Honeybees are an animal that's been on the planet Earth longer than mankind has been, but for the last few thousand years, man has been making use of the bees in large part to produce honey. Here's some of the honey that they produce. A very sweet substance, sweeter than sugar, and much healthier than sugar also.
So who lives in a beehive? Well, there are 3 different types of bees in every single hive. There is one queen, and she's the female that lays all the eggs. There are a few drones. They are the boys, and it's a very small percentage of the population of the colony. And all the rest of these are worker bees, and all of those workers are females. And their job is to take care of the young, as well as forage for pollen, nectar, and water.
And so where do the bees live? Well, in nature, bees live in trees. Sometimes bees will move into hollow walls, like a hollow wall of a barn. But beekeepers like to keep them in boxes. This is what we call a Langstroth hive. This is a hive that's been used for the last 170 years by beekeepers and works very well for us to keep bees in. The bees live on the bottom part of it. That's where they raise their young. That's where they spend the winter. And up on the top of it is where they store the honey that we then harvest.
So there are many bees around the world, but there's only one honeybee. And so what do the bees look like? Well, first of all, their colors can range from yellow or a caramely color to almost black sometimes. And they have 5 eyes. 2 eyes on the front are nice and big, and then there's 3 eyes on the top of their head that kind of react to light and help them find flowers and navigate back to their hives.
And honeybees are very hairy. You can see here that this bee is quite hairy. If you see something that's shiny, it's not a honeybee. In fact, it's probably either a hornet or a yellow jacket. And you need to give them a little more space. They tend to be a lot more ornery than honeybees do.
So in addition to the honey that the bees make for us and the wax that we will use for candles or for cosmetics, another very important job of honeybees and other pollinators is pollinating for food. So every 3rd bite of your meal is likely produced because of a pollinator. So our bees actually get hired to travel around to different areas of the country to pollinate food. The largest pollination event in the world happens in California in February every year, where they pollinate the almond orchards.
If you have an apple tree in your backyard and you have honeybees to pollinate it, your apples will be larger, they'll be more uniform in size, and your apple tree will produce more apples in that crop. So, question is, if bees are that important to us, what things can we do to help promote the honeybees, to keep them safe?
Well, one important one that everyone can do, because Larry and I understand that not everybody wants to be a beekeeper, and that's okay.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
I know, Larry.
I'm surprised.
But there are some things that everybody can do to help our bees and to help us continue to raise successful bees. So limiting or eliminating pesticide use at your house, in your yards, is critical. That is something that will help all of the bees. Another thing that you can do is plant more bee-friendly plants. Plant more flowers, gardens, flowering shrubs, and trees. Trees are the best.
And those weeds that you've got in your yard, well, many of those weeds are really good meals for honeybees. Dandelions are great. In fact, dandelions come out early and they're one of the first big meals that the honeybees get. Now, I know not everyone wants to have them all over their yard, but at the same time, there's no reason to have to remove them from the fence rows around the side, the far back, out in the pasture. Go ahead and let the dandelions bloom and let all the other wildflowers bloom. It's quite a buffet for the honeybees to eat from.
So we do get asked a lot of questions as beekeepers. So we're going to ask each other those questions as if you were here so that you can hear the answers.
I know one of your questions already. Don't you get stung?
I do get stung, but not very often. But I will admit, every single time that I get stung, it's my fault. It's because I did something wrong. I put my finger somewhere where it didn't belong, and so forth. So it's important for you to know that honeybees do not want to sting, and they only sting to protect their house. So if they are out pollinating in your yard and collecting water, honey, or water, nectar, or pollen, they're not going to sting you unless you really, really, really pick on them. So please don't be scared. Just observe them on the flowers and enjoy what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me, what about those honeybees in the ground? Wait a minute. Let's back up a little bit. Honeybees don't live in the ground. Honeybees live in trees. They live in walls. They live in white boxes that are stacked up. But they don't live in the ground. If you see them in the ground, like when you're pushing your lawnmower across the ground and suddenly you have bees all over the place, they aren't bees. They're probably yellow jackets. Yellow jackets are a very different creature, and they're very ornery. Give them lots of space. At the same time as you see those honeybees that are working on a flower, no danger. The yellow jackets in the ground, got to be a little bit cautious about that.
So Larry, what do your bees do during the winter?
In the winter, my bees get together and they keep each other warm. It's nice. They help each other out. They get together and they make their way around inside that box, inside that hive, moving from place to place where they've stored honey for the winter. And as they go around, they stay warm in the middle of this cluster, and that warm group then moves to the outside and the cold group moves to the inside. They tend to keep each other warm all winter long.
So Larry, I know that the honey doesn't come in a bottle like this. The bees don't put it in a bottle. So tell me, how do you get it out of the hive after the bees have made it?
Well, a couple hundred years ago, they just ate it right out of the comb. Nowadays, we don't usually like to eat it out of the comb as much. And so instead, we extract the honey. We take it out of the comb. And the way that we do that is we put it into an extractor that turns it around in a circle. And the centrifugal force causes the honey to fly out and to go to the outside wall of the extractor and then slide down to the bottom. Then all we do is open up the petcock at the bottom and put it into a jar. And my friends, we then have honey. But one of the things that people often come up with is they say, my honey went bad. Honey doesn't go bad.
Never.
Honey is good forever. But sometimes it will crystallize. Question is, how do we deal with honey that's crystallized?
So the first thing you should know is that, as Larry said, it's not bad when it crystallizes. In fact, it's how you know it's legit, the good stuff from a beekeeper. And all you have to do is gently heat it in a double boiler on the top of your stove at the lowest heat possible. You don't ever want to overheat your honey. You can burn it, but you also don't want to overheat it because it'll kill all the good stuff that's in there, the stuff that's good for you.
Mm-hmm. And so how do you find really good honey? The answer to that question is easy. You find a local beekeeper. The local beekeeper makes the honey and has it right there. You know that's where it came from. If you go to one of the chain stores and buy honey, you'll go, where did that honey come from? You have no idea. But I'll make you a bet. With having more than 4,000 beekeepers in the state of Illinois, there's a beekeeper not too far from you. Find the beekeeper and say, I'd like to buy some of your honey.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us today for the Ag Expo. We've really had a sweet time talking to you today about bees.
I love that line. I love that line.
And if you ever want to learn more about bees or beekeeping, feel free to give us a call. We can come into your classroom and teach you some more. We hope you have a great day.
Thanks for listening.